Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. You did excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, thanks. Thank you a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Ari, Dennis. Dennis and Jim. Good.
I was looking at the wild, bunch of, what is red?
It's, if you go, you know, the Circuit of the Americas, you go on that road, go to the end of it, you'll hit Red Rock Elementary School.
Wonderful.
And that way, you know,
Let me change and I'll be right.
Romantic stop. Y'all can continue talking.
Okay.
I just realized, oh my gosh, I need to.
Jonathan's
Don't
waiting.
brag.
You can
I don't know
come
how
in here
quite
and
how
y'all
this is
can
gonna
talk.
work here.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, he just told me to bring this. I don't know that I'll even actually play it.
Oh, you don't think so?
Well, I'll probably play my G.
You've written some songs.
Huh?
You've written songs.
Oh, yeah.
Could they be inserted into the interview at some point, you think?
Say that again?
Inserted into the interview at some
Yeah, at some point, if he wants me to, you know,
Yeah.
or if I was like, I want to sing a song
I
about
think
that.
it's great.
The scroll with the music.
But you have that for the
Right.
guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
an
they don't
it's an
have a
acoustic.
lapel?
Yeah, we have it right over here.
Oh, wow.
So if you're not moving, I can mic you up here.
I'm gonna get
Yeah, I'll
Awesome.
sit here.
Well, if you wanna thread that up your shirt real quick,
Okay.
you're probably gonna have to. Let's see where can I put this.
Your guitar's been around.
Yeah, that's the first guitar. And look, it's
Cool.
falling apart, but the first thing I ever saved up money for too.
Yeah.
My parents made me. I had to work for the music.
Let's see, I can
My
probably get
parents
it
supported me in everything except for
Uh-huh.
there.
music.
Hold on to that.
So that's good, you know?
Oh, okay.
That means I really wanted it.
Yes. Yeah. You know, sometimes when it's just given to you, it's like,
Yeah,
eh.
it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my first car was given to me, and I wrecked it.
Oh.
Then
And
finally
then
had
you
to buy
buy
my
one
own.
and you start washing it and
Yeah.
vacuuming it and
Take really good care of it. Exactly.
changing the oil.
I know. Yeah, that's part of it, you know? Well, thank you, Vicky.
You're welcome.
Let's see, if I stick that here, will it... It's kind of like it's not even there.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You can see.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good prop
Yeah.
if you need.
Yeah, if I need it, like, I'm getting nervous,
I need my
Dennis.
teddy bear,
I want
right?
to play like...
So you write music too.
I do, let's see, let me sing you a song I wrote. Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to new places and you don't know where you're gonna stay. Mommy and your daddy are gonna miss when you're away. They do not know where your eyes are gonna be. Like that.
That's one of those graduation my kids are like, wait, I'm gonna cry now.
I know. It's kind of like that, exactly.
Oh, I like that. How old are your kids?
Well, my daughter's 10 and my son's 8. So
Oh,
they're still little. They're
yeah.
little. Yeah. There he is.
All
I
right.
am.
You got a little more relaxed for
Good.
when you're dressed.
Tell me your, pronounce your last name for me again.
Lillemoen.
Moen.
Lillemoen. Yeah,
Moen.
or Lillemoen.
Like
Yeah, Lillemoen. That's how we say it in Norwegian. Lillemoen. It means little meadow, actually.
Really?
Little meadow. Yeah, Norwegians have a lot of last names named after geographical features. Like one called, my neighbor behind me was called Tuv, and that means like a little hill, you know?
Yeah.
Just like that.
Cool. And you had what we're going to do is just continue to talk, and you might play us in. if
Sure.
you
What should I
like.
play?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. What are you interested in?
Well, I could play like a real relaxing
Sure.
instrumental that I wrote.
Yeah.
I'll shorten it because it can take up the whole
Sure.
segment.
We'll just take. We'll be taking this as when we get rolling. They'll let us know.
It's called Relax Your Growing. Kind of goes like that. It goes kind of like that.
Oh, nice, Jarle.
Thanks.
This is Jarle Lily Moen.
The Moen, and you're
How did I
Dennis
do?
Tuck.
How did I do?
You did great.
Huh?
You did great.
All right,
Dennis.
we're getting there. Jarle, what was your introduction? Now, Jarle, you grew up in Norway, correct?
I did. I was born in Norway, and
Yeah.
And I lived there, like any Norwegian kid. But
Yeah.
my dad was a captain on the ocean, boats.
Yeah,
And he got a job in Houston in the early 80s.
right.
And then he liked it, and he asked us, me, my brother, and mom, if
Right.
we wanted to move over here.
Yeah.
We had a little family meeting. We all said, yes, let's go. And then we went. And that
And
was
so when did you arrive here?
1985.
What was that like? Looking
Right,
at the
yeah.
United States in
Yeah.
1985, how old were you?
I just turned 14 that
14,
year.
you're 14 years old.
Yeah.
You're in the United States. What
It
are you
was-
thinking about?
well,
What?
I was getting bored at the time
Yeah.
living in Norway. It was just probably because I was 14.
Right.
It was just
Yeah,
kind of changing.
you know how, yeah.
Right. So we moved here, and then of course the very first thing that completely blew my mind was we were driving on these roads, and there would be a bridge, and another bridge, and another, 5 bridges just going like this on top of each other. And that was sort of like the beginning of it, because that was
Yeah.
the first night just driving home from the airport. And then the flatness, because it was down in Houston area. In Norway, you can't go anywhere without a mountain or
Are you
something.
kidding? You're right there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so actually getting around was hard because they have no real landmarks here, unless you're in the town where you got the
Exactly.
big buildings. So that was really a big adjustment. And then of course the cultural thing, teenagers starting with all the hormones. I heard you talking about
Yeah,
those.
post-hormonal pre-adults, right? I mean,
Yeah,
here
yeah.
you are, the testosterone hits, and, testosterone is quite the drug.
It is.
It
yeah,
is.
it is.
We can look back on history and go, look at the impact of testosterone over the course, and it's very significant.
It is significant. It creates a lot of force.
Yeah,
It's a force maker.
yeah.
And,
And so, were you musically inclined? You were now. Not only are you, one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation with you is because of the broadness of your interests. You teach science in college. You have a chemistry background, and that
right.
you've always loved that. Yet you also love music, and you
Mm-hmm.
and you have your art, and consciousness is such a big part of your vision of where you're going, of how this amalgamation is coming in. So pick an area that we'd like to talk about, and let's invest
Sure.
some time in having
well,
some conversation.
the chemistry is definitely, I owe my parents that I studied chemistry because I was going to study music, and that was my out of high school. I said I'm going to study music.
That's it.
They negotiated with me. They said you can pay for it yourself, or you can study something. You can get a real job,
Yeah.
and then we'll pay for your school. And so I said, well, and then I told I had gotten into some psychedelics
Yep.
and stuff. And
How
so
was that
really,
consciousness? Were you able to, when, as I did too, and I went through and I found that like some of the teachers that I have, Ram Dass, and some of the people
Okay.
that I have studied, that there was that the psychedelic experience helped me to see that there was another level, that there was another level that was going parallel in this time. Now,
Yeah.
it's easy for us to get hooked on that level and to say, okay, I just want that experience, or
Yeah.
we can use that as a transformative of our consciousness. So what was
So yeah, so you know, the thing was, you know, putting you in such a different state of mind. You know,
Right.
talking about myself, it was so different. So, you know, I'd grown up fairly conventional. You know, I was a Christian boy.
Right.
You know, I believed in Jesus, and like none of that's anything wrong with that. But it was something that happened to me. That like the whole story I'd been told was, it got totally thrown on its head in a way.
yeah.
And so in trying to figure it out, which, you know, I finally feel like, you know, I'm getting the balance of it, but it was like, I need to figure this out somehow, what happened here, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I, you know, really needed to find out what, you know, I can't study music, so what do? Well,
Yeah.
chemistry. Chemistry is sort of like where if there is a mind and interaction,
Yeah.
it would have to be somehow through the chemistry. So that's why I started with
That's
that.
the thing that fascinates me about chemistry and biology and how this all works. What is this thing, this consciousness?
Yeah.
What is this thing that chemically comes together and actually becomes a consciousness?
Yeah, yeah. What is that? I mean, and so, you know, I guess now we can do the functional MRI studies. So you can kind of
Right.
look at your brain, like sort of indirectly measure what it is, like where do things happen while
Sure.
you're thinking, but we cannot observe it directly.
I know.
And but you know, I don't know. What do I believe about that? I think consciousness is sort of embedded into everything in a way. We just happen to be organized
Thank you.
in a way that, you know, enables us to move through the space, make a decision, lift our hand, you know. But this it's about how the matter is organized within us more than exactly, you know, because a rock, you know, it probably exists on a different time scale,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, just because it doesn't, I love that, because if it only moves once every 100,000 years,
Yeah.
but I think, you know, I think about this because I'm 70 years old this year, and I've changed. I'm counting days instead of years. 25,816.
Wow.
Okay. So that
great.
way I'm looking at it in a different way. But what was before I was conceived, from the first time from when that happened,
Yeah.
whatever it is, the universe was 14.7 billion years old. It didn't seem
Yeah.
to me that I was bored,
No.
or whatever it was. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It's just a fascinating process. This idea, this chemical and impact. When you look at the kids today,
Yeah.
because you're a teacher, right?
Yes.
And you look at that. What do you see out there? What do you see out there as far as their interest? Because there is a lot of conversations about what is a millennial, or what are these kids,
yeah.
and how are they interested? What are you seeing out there?
Well, I mean, the young people that I, you know, interact with.
Yeah.
First of all, I think they're really smart, and in many ways they're probably smarter than me, you know, in terms
Isn't
of.
that amazing? Yeah.
Now, the thing that, you know, you and I probably have on them is that we've been around a lot longer, so we've run into a lot of more things
Yes.
to sort of having to interact with. So we have more base to pull from the past, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing that, I mean, I think everyone's trying to figure out, like, how has all these computers and all the internet and everything really affected our society, you know? Because
Exactly.
that's sort of the difference between us and the millennials is they have only ever known computers. They've only ever known
They're
internet.
digital natives.
Yeah. And we, you know.
We're immigrants.
I was like, you know, in my 20s before I started getting, well, I had email maybe when I was, you'll say 20 years old,
Sure.
you know. So, but that was very new,
Yeah.
you know. And now it's like so integrated. and but it's not the intelligence that's lacking in the millennials, not at all. And
Oh
it's
God,
just,
no! I mean, they are really. I mean, there's a lot of brilliance, but is there what I was talking about when I talk with in some of my coaching is that they just want they don't want to be CEO first day one. What they want to do is to have purpose.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Right.
Help me to understand why, and that to me is so powerful.
And thanks for pointing that out, because that's actually one of the things that, I haven't taught for that long. I mean, I've taught a little here and there, but
Yeah.
it's the things like, how do I connect this thing, which happens to be organic chemistry, to your purpose, So like I try to, because for me, that's the most important class they take. Because that's the one I teach them.
You bet.
So I'm really trying to see, like, what is it that motivates you? Like, what gets you motivated? And is there any way I can tie that into chemistry?
Right.
So for me, the reason I started studying chemistry, of course, was the consciousness and that was my interest,
Right.
But of course, there's a whole. If you're gonna study chemistry, you can't just look at one thing. You're
No.
gonna get the whole class,
It is.
And so it's the same with them. There might be only a tiny little piece of that they really are interested in, but they have to get the whole thing. And
I find it interesting because organic chemistry seems to me, as I talk to doctors and I talk to people who didn't go through medicine, and that organic chemistry is the inflection point. They're either going to make it through, or they're going to be kicked into another. This is it. This is your big test, your first big test as to whether or not you really want to do inorganic chem. Do you find that?
I believe that the organic chemists, they call it the weed out class. It's where it's a formidable subject, and I still feel it's a formidable subject. Myself, and there's just so much, and it's still so mysterious too.
Yeah.
It hasn't all been figured out.
Well,
Not even organic
we're
chemistry.
just that to me is exciting about it.
Yeah, and the explanations we have, they're ideas that we come up with models to try to explain what we see, but it doesn't mean that our models are correct,
Yeah.
So I always try to keep that in mind, and I try to get that across. All these things that everything we've been told is like, it's just the stories we've been telling ourselves, and they work, but some parts of them don't work too.
Yep.
And you have to be able to let go of a story so we can make a new story,
Einstein had that problem. He couldn't let go of the idea of the quantum, that there was this uncertainty, this quantum. He couldn't let go of the story that he had, and that was his part. I mean, that was his part of the story. And when we hold on to old stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we tell new stories, and how do we tell them? And do you do that with music, right? I mean, you do that.
Music has been my trusty companion, and through hard times and easy times. It's something that I've been able to, because it's abstract. Music is this abstract thing, but it's also mathematical.
Yes.
Like the harmonic relationships are, integral of frequencies. 1 frequency, 2 frequency, or 2 frequency. Like these are harmonic because the interrelationship is small fractions. So music has been there for me to almost like you were saying, a parallel. The psychedelics, a parallel universe.
Absolutely.
It's like a parallel universe. If you're having trouble, you could go into sort of that parallel sound universe and maybe sort some ideas out, maybe sort out some troubles,
That's part of emotional healing, right? I mean, because music hits us at an emotional level. It brings us something. It brings us something. Now, you were talking about the harmonics, and I was talking earlier about why, when I was growing up, harmonies just lift me. When I hear harmonies are just, what is it about it? Is it musically? Is it just like a step, or what is it?
So, for example, well, chords are composed generally of what they call a triad,
Mm-hmm.
diatonic triad, which means that the space between them is 2.
Right.
So if you go here, play a scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, makes a harmonic.
Oh.
And then, but the, you know, so then, and then of course you move from one chord to the next. So then that's, so that I go from the 1 to the 4, and then to the 5.
I was looking on your Facebook page about all the pictures where you're performing and all that you're performing on. You're performing at the place where you have a long beard and you have a short beard. Are these evolutions of Jarle as you were learning and growing into who you? I mean,
It's true. So in my younger years, I never liked the way I looked. So I was always trying to change it.
yeah,
Really, I mean, that's what it comes down to.
sure.
Try something different, long hair, short hair. Finally, now I'm comfortable just being who I am. And I'm a little too lazy to shave every day. So, I try to just keep it like, and then I grew myself, you know, to save money. So
Yeah.
I shaved my hair, whatever. Yeah, it's been like that. And then, of course, sometimes too, you know, as a performer, there was a time, you know, with my band that I would be wearing dresses and stuff like that.
Sure.
And a part of that was just to get attention, really.
Sure.
I mean, and but it was fun too, a lot
Sure.
of fun, you know. So, but then, you know, now I don't see myself doing that. So it's a growing thing, you know. It's getting older. I mean, now I'm a dad, you know, too. So like, it's not that made me. I will do anything in front of my kids, you know.
Sure.
Like, but it's just like I feel like my priorities have changed, really.
Isn't it amazing to see our priorities change over the course of our lives? You know, to be able
Yeah.
to say, "Wow, I feel differently about that than I did before." I'm really trying to use the word "so far"
Yeah.
in my, instead of thinking I feel this way, that's the way I'm going to be, and I'm going to keep that way, because that closes me off.
Yeah, it's true. And that brings me to another thing, which is the language we use and the stories we tell ourselves.
Yes.
You know? So we tell ourselves a certain story, and we will believe it, you know, to a certain extent. And
Yep.
the more we tell the story, the more we believe it. So,
Yep. Well,
so if you
that's
say,
it.
I feel this way, then you do feel that way. And
Yep.
then you may be impossible to change.
Yep.
But but if you are able to not hold on so tight to your ideas, you know, then or I am not. If I am able to not hold on so tight to my ideas,
Yep.
it's actually a freeing experience.
Isn't it amazing? And I love the way that you turned. I watched you turn it from you to I. And I've been working on that so much, because I've realized when I was growing up, there would be these old timers that would sit around and go, well, I don't know about you, but da-da-da-da. Well, I don't know about you.
Uh-huh.
And I realize how wise that is.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you.
No, you don't.
I have no idea of what it's like to be Jarle. That and the less I assume I know what it's like, the more I can actually be present, and the more I can be of service to myself and to the rest of humanity.
That's a good way to put it, Dennis.
You know,
Can
it's
be
what-
open to let them express themselves
exactly. And
without having said, you know. I mean, yeah, without you assuming what they is, you know.
yeah, because we don't know, and we don't know, and one of the things that I love about today is the amount of diversity that I see. When I grew up, there was a real homogeneity, not just homogenized as in milk, because it was very white.
Yeah.
But everything was regimented, and everybody stayed in their place.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I'll look out at a field, and if you have a monoculture in a field, what happens to that field?
You get struck by the seas. And then you got to
Right?
spray lots of chemicals on it to keep it alive.
Right, that's it. I mean, you
Yeah.
really have to go to a lot. But what do you do if you put a really rich, diverse plant life and animal life into that? What happens to that soil?
The soil builds. And
How are we not the same? How is not culture, human culture, not the same way? That's the way I predict.
yeah, that's a really great metaphor, you know, for we should, but we should hold on to a few things, but those other people, whoever they are,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to assume, and I find myself doing it all the time, you know.
Don't
I
we,
see
though? It's
somebody,
how
I
human
just
of
like,
us.
okay, they're so and so, they're
Yep.
like that, and it's just, it's a real easy thing to do. But yeah, somehow nurturing each person's innate, what's supposed to come out of them, because you know, that's
How
really
wonderful.
hard because we have. I'm like, I was taught you do this. It's not like, you know, you're supposed to get a job. We go to university. We go get
That's
a
right.
job, and then you do that. But it's not even working very well anymore because now, you know, the basis for this is falling apart. And, you know, we can get into the reasons for that.
Yep.
But I mean, a lot of it has to do with monopolies being created and
Sure.
driving out small businesses. You know, small businesses are disappearing. People start working for the big company,
Right.
and then it just like the diversity goes away.
Exactly. So how do we re-diversify? Like you have Wild Bunch Brewing.
That's
Red
right.
Rock. All right. So this is a way of injecting diversity.
Yeah, and you know, my own
Right.
form of diversity.
So talk about that.
Well, our brewery, our Wild Bunch Brewing, is a very small company. It's mainly me and my wife run it. We have
Yep.
investors that help with some money because you know
Right.
you can't brew beer without some equipment and,
Right.
and pay the rent and such. And then small is beautiful. You know, I really believe that, and so and it's nice too because like craft beer is sort of an example of you know something that is diverse here in this because there are a lot of thriving craft breweries.
Yep.
And in fact, beer sales overall are going down in our nation, but craft beer sales are going up, you know.
Right.
Because people are, at least on that level, realizing, hey, local is good, you know.
Yep.
You can go to a local place, have a couple of beers, and they're made by the people there.
Yep.
And then, and it's just like, it's like music culture in Austin. It's very diverse, you know.
Yep.
And it's just, there's something living and exciting about creating things together.
Isn't
know?
it amazing? And that's where I think that if we put these little, the thing that I think about when I think about monopoly or oligarchy or that we work like that, Jarle, is that that's darkness, and it's hard to keep darkness. Because just one shard of light breaks that darkness, and when we begin to begin to put the value in the individual, really make sure that we're connecting. That's where we've got an opportunity here. I mean, I'm seeing that happen. I mean, look at you, just you sitting in your professorship, in teaching organic chemistry, just the perspective that you have to say, I want you to find your purpose. As you're saying exactly the same words, changes their experience just because of your willingness to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, that's certainly something I'm continuing to do, you know, because there's still kind of the hierarchical thing about the professor and the student, like, you know,
Exactly.
you don't want to, like, I guess I'm in a position of power, which
Right.
is scary, you know, it's a scary thing, so if you're in a vulnerable position, you don't want to necessarily reveal too much to this person of authority.
Right.
So, and, you know, whereas I'm not used to being like a person of authority, I'm really used to being, you know, just me struggling to do,
Right.
to get done, you know, what I'm trying to get done, you know, which is, you know, it's just whatever I happen to be really into at the time, you know.
How has the experience of fatherhood changed you as a human being?
Well, it has certainly given me lots of gray hairs, first of all.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. But it's really wonderful that, you know, that there's someone who just completely adores me, you know.
Yeah.
As much as they also, you know, constantly kind of disrespect me in their taking me for
their
granted,
job.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same, it's just really great, you know, and it's taught me a lot about myself. I have to say that, because, you know, that there were things in, you know, that were probably just dormant in me
Yeah.
that have come out, you know. A lot of it's maybe out of anger and things like that, but there I
Sure.
certainly learned a lot about myself and my hidden dark side, you know.
Yep.
But also to balance that, you know, just the love of those kids, you know, is great, and like my love for them is, you know, it's a real thing, you know.
You know, there's so much that I've found, Jarle, about what a do-over is all about being able to say, like to my wife, and to be able to say, wait a minute, what I just said was ridiculous. I just said was such an ass. I'm being a complete ass. Please give me a chance to do it. And so we do a take two. All right, take two. Let me do that line again, yeah, and go back again and try to say it in a more compassionate way, because I'm not every time. I'm never upset for the reason I think I am.
Really?
It's usually something else that's going on inside, and that's the reason why I'm reacting about that. And it teaches me so much about myself.
Yeah, and that's true, Dennis. Just the other stress, and it comes out, you know.
Exactly.
Because it's usually not the kid so much. I mean, what they did, of course, can be aggravating, but it's the other stresses that on a stressful day I'll just be more mean, you know.
But if we can own it,
Yeah.
you know, hey, I tanked that one. That was terrible.
Yeah, that's great.
I apologize. Not what you did was great. Not what you did was good. But there's a better way, and own our parts of it.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think is the difference between having it as a hierarchy. I was reading about how children who never get a chance to see their parents make up. They might see the fight or start the fight, but then they go off into another room and they work and they don't, and they come back and things are well, but they've never gotten a chance to actually be there during that negotiating process of how adults get back into rhythm, back into harmony. Like when you get into discord and get back into harmony, and to be able for them to see it is a very life-growing experience.
Yeah, I had never really thought about that, but it makes perfect sense.
How would they learn? How do they learn if they don't see it happen?
You're yelling at each other and throwing pots and pans, and all of a sudden you disappear.
Yep.
Come back, everything's fine. It's not okay.
What happened? How did that work? And because I'm really thinking that this is a time when we're going through almost a sentience 2.0. There's something really powerful about this global interconnected world, that your children are, we're leaving the planet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
This is when humans
physically.
are going to look back and go, oh my God, this is when they left the planet. This is when it happened.
Yeah.
And we're right in the middle of it as it's going on.
Yeah, the whole birthing process, all the mess, the pain and the bloody mess.
Yep. Because I was thinking about that when we're talking about diversity, because one of the things that one of my issues is that I recognize what white male privilege is in the United States. That I have really been given I've been given a huge advantage just because I happen to. I didn't choose, as far as I know, I didn't choose the womb or choose the place I was going, but I had so many advantages just by being a white male. And I have to acknowledge that, and at the same time being able to say, how can I empower others to be able to have the kinds of advantages that I had also?
Yeah, Dennis, that's sort of the big thing of today is, I also recognize, I am white, I am man, and I feel like things have gone pretty easy for me, in many ways. which doesn't mean I haven't had plenty of
No,
struggles,
no.
but yeah, certainly, probably someone who's looking at me on the street probably don't make a whole lot of assumptions, besides maybe I'm really wealthy or, you know, something like that, but, you know, probably people don't assume that I'm just like a criminal, you know,
Yeah.
which,
I mean, and
has-
just those assumptions, and so
Yeah.
us being able to say what I love about the idea of inclusion is that we get an opportunity to be able to say, what is the place within you and the place within me that we are the same? I mean, when you look at it from an organic chemical standpoint, how different is one human being from another?
not very, very, very similar. Yeah, we're, you know, if you just look at the genes sequences, I mean, it's like 0.001% difference, or,
Yeah.
you know, maybe I'm off by that, by a decimal point there.
Right.
But we're very, very similar. I mean, and I know that genes do matter a whole lot, you know, in terms
and the
of
sequencing and all,
yeah,
right?
But also, you know, your culture that you grew up in is a really big part of it too. You know,
Yep.
which is that story in the back to the story we're telling. You know, our culture is that story. You know, and so there's a clashing stories right now. The story once, and they both make sense. It's like the left versus the right. You know,
Exactly.
I happen to spend a lot of time in Austin. Okay, well, the people I was around, I would say stick them in the left category.
Right.
And then now I moved into the country and didn't get to eat a whole lot of peaches yet, but definitely more of a right people.
Exactly.
But to me, when one is sitting there talking, they make a lot of sense. When one is sitting there talking, they make a lot of sense. But they're yelling at each other. They
Exactly.
get mad at each other.
And
So,
how can we?
but
And
they
how
both
can we?
make sense.
Exactly. So how can we do that?
Howdy, howdy.
Well, the way I say is, we gotta be quiet for a moment and hear the other person out. Dennis, is that it? Is the end of the show?
How do I say thank you in Norwegian?
Tusen takk. Tusen takk.
Tusen takk.
That means 1,000 thanks.
Tusen takk.
And thank you, Dennis.